also press record.
There we go.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're ready when you are.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead. It's 2:03 on June 12, 2023. This is the meeting of the Public Safety Committee for the city of Charleston. And I'm going to use my executive privilege to lead us in a moment of silence, part of our invocation. I'd ask that you keep in mind in your hearts our beloved former police chief Luther Reynolds and his family. It just seems like yesterday, literally, that he joined our community in Charleston. His 5 years were very short, but such a tremendous impact he had on all of us from every different walks of life. And I know that we could all spend another 2 hours talking about some personal experience we had with Chief Reynolds, but in his honor and in memory of him and dedication to his family, let's pause for a few moments to offer our prayers for his eternal contribution to our community. Amen. Thank you all for indulging me on that. So first, next order of business, approval of our May 8th, 2023 minutes. I'll
move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. The first item of new business is the amendments to our Citizen Police Advisory Council guidelines. And I know that we have a lot of folks from the CPAC on here. And Steve Rumlin, do you want to lead us in that part of the discussion first to sort of give us an outline of what these changes are? I've read them and looked them over, and the necessity of why we need to do that.
Yeah, I'll just summarize what the changes are. And basically, this kind of came about because in CPAC, we were having trouble filling the positions. There were a number of vacancies on the council, and some of the people that we did have appointed were not participating. So a lot of these changes are aimed at trying to get those slots filled and get people to participate more in the CPAC process. So in summary, we expanded the youth representation from just high school seniors to all high school students and also college students, so long as you're 21 years old or younger at the time of your appointment. And we've expanded the term that a youth representative can serve from 1 year to 3 years. We found that the people that are engaged, by the time they kind of get their footing and the year is up, and then we have to replace them. So those people that are participating, if they serve 3 years, they can contribute more. Members must live or work in the district of their appointing authority. Members must complete the CPD police citizen or the Citizen Police Academy and do a police ride-along to be qualified. We will maintain a list of Police Academy graduates who express an interest in serving on CPAC, and those will be passed along to the mayor and the council members when making considerations about appointment of members. Members must be reappointed to second terms. However, members may continue to serve until reappointed or replaced. So we eliminate that gap. City council members shall be notified 30 days in advance of the expiration of their appointee's term, or you'll be notified immediately in the event your appointee resigns or is removed from the council. And then the appointing authority has 30 days to nominate someone else. And in the absence of a nomination, the mayor would be allowed to appoint someone to that position. The elections for the chair and vice chair will take place on an annual basis at the last meeting of the year. And then the term will begin January 1st of the next year for the newly elected chair and vice chair. there is no limit to the number of times you can serve as chair or vice chair. So the same chair or vice chair could be elected a number of years in a row by the council. We eliminated the independent third-party facilitator role as CPAC has been acting without that person for the last 4 years. You may recall that was Reverend Middleton was the original facilitator, and he was working with the group on some of those polarity thinking and decision-making issues that came out of the Illumination Project. We defined the role of the clerk's office better with the help of Jennifer. They maintain the minutes of the meetings of the full CPAC membership. They post meeting agendas and notices on the website, and they store minutes and agendas for the full CPAC membership. We defined a quorum as a majority of members, and we're not counting vacant seats in that equation. So if there is only 14 members as opposed to 18 appointed, a majority would be 8 rather than 9. We outlined a procedure for CPAC to provide comments, suggestions, or recommendations regarding policy and procedures. And that is attached as an appendix to the guidelines. It's basically a flow chart. We identify policies and procedures that we intend to revise on an annual basis. And then from those, CPAC picks the ones that they're interested in, and they send that out to their full membership for comments, which are then brought back to the department, and the chief ultimately decides which of those he or she would accept or not accept as recommendations, and then the policy is updated accordingly. CPAC is asked that they be allowed to report annually either to the Public Safety Committee or the council regarding their work for that year. There's a provision that provides that CPAC members will communicate with their appointing authority at least 2 times a year. And then also that CPAC will participate in the racial bias audit as is provided by the audit. There's very specific recommendations as to the role of CPAC. And then CPAC will also offer their feedback to CPD, the city, and the assessors that are working on the audit or assessment of the racial bias audit. And I'm here for any questions if anyone has.
All right, so Councilmember Shealy, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just wanted to ask Mr. Rumlin, I think we have some people that are rolling off right now that were on there. I think my person that was appointed may be one of those, but I haven't received any notice that I'm aware of. Maybe I missed it, but I just wanted to check who reports that out to the city council members. I know you're saying we've got 30 days from the time we receive that, I think, but
Yeah.
but I haven't received anything on my, my nominee be rolling off, I guess.
Yeah, and we haven't provided you notice, and we need to do that. But your appointee was Ryan Davis, who was a very active member on the council. But at the last meeting, I believe on June 1st, he indicated that that he wanted to come off. So so you will be able to appoint a new member to the council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Before we have any more questions, I would like to entertain a motion that we adopt these amendments.
Move for approval.
Second.
Now we open up for discussion. Councilmember Brady, any questions or comments?
No, I have a good working relationship with Paul Tamburino, who's on this call, and he did notify me that his term was ending. So I would like to reappoint him if he was willing to serve another term.
I think he put you on the spot, Paul. We got a thumbs up. Mr. Mayor, any comments or questions about these
I
changes?
just want to thank Chairman Paul and the other members. I see Mr. Harris on the line. I know he's on the committee as well for their service, and I support these changes. I think they're administrative mostly in nature, just to ensure we get full and continued and better participation. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Shealy, any other comments?
No, sir, not other than I certainly support Paul Tamburino being brought back on this committee too. He's done a great job, done an outstanding job, and we appreciate it.
Very good. I don't see Councilman Mitchell still hasn't joined us. Is that right? Councilman Mitchell? don't see
I do not believe he is on now.
Yeah, okay. So Steve, the only question I had, and this is just me sticking my nose under this tent, so to speak. And I'm not sure what page this is on, but it's under the removal section. And it says all advisory council members are expected to participate and attend all advisory council meetings. And then if a advisory council member misses 3 consecutive meetings without cause, so I'm wondering, is that too high of a bar? I mean, 3 in a row as opposed to, and I think you give yourself a little bit more wiggle room as well. But in other words, if a person misses a majority of these meetings, and it may be not exactly 3 in a row, 3 consecutive meetings, but he may miss 4 or 5 or whatever, that would seem to be a disqualifying issue as well. I didn't know if that was a problem for the committee, that they were dealing with that. But anyhow, it seemed like an issue with 3 consecutive seems like a hard pattern to cause somebody to be removed, as opposed to missing a majority of the meetings instead. And I'll look for a response from you or from anybody else on the CPAC if they have a comment about that.
I think it was back in April, we did a kind of an attendance chart because there were some people that had not only missed a majority of meetings, they had been absent for months on end. And so I believe Chair Tamburino reached out to those people. Some responded with resignations. And the ones that didn't respond, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 that were actually removed by the council on that provision. But, you know, I think we try and reach out to people and find out what their situation is before we act on a removal. But I don't have any strong feelings about that. I know Councilmember Tamburino is on, and I think
yeah, he's got his hand up. I'll call on
Yeah.
him. Paul, you want to comment about that part of it?
Yes, sir. So we certainly don't meet as often as you all do. So when we say 3 consecutive meetings, that's really represents 6 months of no participation. So that's it's impacted our ability to have a quorum. And it really, for the representatives that participate at the police department, there's nothing worse for me than being more police representation after hours than people that have volunteered to be on this group. And typically when they've been gone for 3 meetings, it's representative. They're not participating in really anything that we're doing. So, we did remove about 5 or 6 people who just were sitting on our books that weren't participating. And I just think that's a long time. 6 months is a long time not to participate.
Okay. All right, well, we can, I'm not trying to monkey it up, but if you think that the way this is written is going to suffice and get that squared away.
And please also understand we're discretionary, right? So that had been going on for a long time. Some of the people that were removed had missed 6, 7, 8 meetings. When I became chair, finally said enough is enough. We need to clear the deck and enable people who want to serve to have a vacancy to come on board. So we do have discretion. We don't have to take it up for a vote.
Okay. Councilmember Seekings is on with us. Councilmember Seekings, I got your text. Did you want to comment about that?
Sure, and I really don't want to gum this up, seeing as I'm not on the committee, but one of the requirements I think that Steve read as he went through the bullet points was that when we appoint someone, it has to be within the district. They have to reside within a certain district. I might take that out and just make sure they live in the city of Charleston. I mean, there's plenty of people that I would consider appointing that don't necessarily live in District 8. If I'm reading that right, if that's not a requirement, then ignore my previous comment.
Paul, you want to respond by that one as well?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's something that I will tell you that I recommended. So I guess part of the perspective is if a council member can't find one person in their district to sit on this, that's troublesome to me. Number 2, is I want to avoid the idea of hypothetically having 7, 8, 9 people from Daniel Island sitting on something that's supposed to reflect the disparity of our community, and that really it has and it can happen. So I like to see that it comes from each district. So that was something I felt pretty powerful about.
Okay, well, I'll respectfully disagree with that, and
Yes, sir.
how this goes.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Mitchell is joining at this moment.
Yeah, I see him lining in. Councilmember Mitchell, can you hear us okay? You're still muted. You're muted, Councilmember Mitchell. We see you. How many how many vacancies do we have now?
We currently 8 of 18.
8 of 18. Okay. And so part of the changes is regarding quorum is going to help you continue to meet the way that the quorum language has been rewritten, correct?
Yes, sir. We've had 3 meetings that didn't have a quorum. So that's really challenged our ability to approve guidelines and things like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So with the exception of the comments from Councilmember Seekings, any other comments or questions before we call the vote?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I have my hand raised.
Oh, yeah, there you are. Okay. Yes, sir.
Just a couple of quick observations. One, the most of the recommended changes make a lot of sense. The first guidelines were adopted in May of 2018. It's 5 years later. A lot of water has gone under the bridge. One of the things that is critical, in my estimation, is the removal of the provision for a facilitator. Steve actually accurately reported that up to 2019, there was a facilitator, Reverend Middleton. The whole concept in part of the CPAC emerged out of the Illumination Project. Illumination Project kind of faded with the transition in chief. Simultaneously, we had the racial bias audit arise. There was nothing in the guidelines that spoke to the responsibility of CPAC as related to the guidelines. And Steve, I disagree with you. If you read the recommendations in the audit report, it says that the responsibility and role of CPAC is unclear and that it should be clarified. So I think we need to work a little bit on the language. I appreciate it being inserted regarding CPAC's responsibility as it relates to the racial bias audit, but I think that needs to be clarified. I do feel very strongly looking at the history from June of 2019 to January of 2020, so to June of 2020, there was one CPAC meeting. That meeting did not have a quorum, and we had to regroup. So in essence, for a full year, CPAC was inoperative. CPAC's role in terms of doing outreach has been supported. Well, the work of CPAC has been supported primarily by the Director of Procedural Justice by the department. For 9 months, that position was vacant. I think part of our ineffectiveness or inability to move has been a result of not having that external resource, that additional resource. And I would respectfully request that at least until after the assessment of the racial bias audit is completed, that the provision to remove the facilitator language be not included in these amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Councilman Shealy, I saw your hand was up and you dropped it again. So I don't know if that was a pullover.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I guess I was curious with the number of absences that we've had. Are those council member appointments, or were those high school students, or who made up the issue that's causing the attendance problem, I guess, or causing the quorum issue?
Steve, can you answer that part for us?
I mean, it ranges. We've had some all-star high school students that have participated in every meeting. We've had others that didn't show up at all, and that is true for some of the adults as well. So
Not a distinct pattern.
no, I mean, we'd have to go back and analyze it, but we've had both issues.
And as far as the 8 vacancies that we have right now, obviously one of them is going to be mine with one rolling off, but are those council member appointed vacancies?
We typically have a good mix. With the high school student, that's one of the mayor selections, but I would say the mayor typically keeps his replenished pretty quickly. So most of our vacancies are usually council members.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, can you respond to Mr. Harris's comment about the facilitator part?
I'm looking at the language that's in the original guidelines, and it says the facilitator's role shall be to assist the advisory council with deliberation and decision-making by serving as a neutral and honest broker. The facilitator will also provide training on problem analysis, problem solving, polarity thinking, and decision-making. So, I mean, that language was very specifically drafted with someone like Kylon Middleton in mind, because he had that training through the Illumination Project to train the council on those concepts. In order to follow through with that at this point, we would need to find someone with his qualifications to do that training and work with the decision making and deliberation aspects of that role.
So part of the problem is finding somebody who meets that unique background and qualifications to fill in the role of a facilitator.
Yeah, and I don't think there's, I mean, if we wanted to have an independent third person assist, CPAC, I think part of Reverend Middleton's, role was just to get this off the ground, to help, think of topics that they wanted to explore and work with the council and the police department as to how the meetings were going to be conducted and all that. I think we've kind of accomplished that when we do have the meetings, but certainly if the city wanted to provide a facilitator, I don't think that would hurt at all. Certainly, I don't think anyone's opposed to that. It just hasn't been necessary for a while.
Paul, you have your hand back up.
Yes, sir. I would say, so since I've been on CPAC, the working relationship with the leadership of the police department has been excellent. So we haven't necessarily had that mediator in between need. We've hit some road bumps at times over policies and procedures. To me, sometimes having that facilitator in the middle who is, the director of procedural justice is an employee of the police department. Having that person in the middle, while we've not necessarily needed it wholeheartedly, knowing it's available if there does come some type of disagreement over which policies are reviewed, recommendations, things like that. I think having that third party, there is a benefit to it if it's possible.
Okay. Well, thank you all for the input. All right. I'll entertain, is any changes or motions for modification, or there's a motion on the floor to adopt as written these changes? Any further discussion from members of the council? Mr. Mayor? Anything else? Councilmember Shealy or Councilmember Brady? Councilmember Mitchell? All right. So seeing there's no, the motion on the floor is to adopt.
Mr. Chairman, apologies. Mr. Harris has his hand up. I don't know if that's.
Yeah. But I'm going to end the discussion period of this with this. So there's no other motion to amend, but to approve it as with these amendments as suggested. Is that correct? That's what's on the floor right now. All right. All right, with that there, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. All right, we'll keep it. We'll approve the changes. We've heard from the two chair folks about the facilitator part about that, and we'll make sure I'll bring that up to the attention of the full council when we meet on June 20th. Okay,
Great.
all right. The next item on our, thank you all, by the way, all the CPAC leadership members who have been very dedicated to this, seeing the success. Well, thank you all for your role and some good discussion about this membership and making sure that we've got somebody on that. My designee sent me a full report, so I was very pleased with my designee sending me something just recently following her meetings. Next item of business is the update on the Inlotech pilot program.
Yes,
See-
sir. I'll be taking that one.
May you do that. There you go.
Yes.
You're
Hi,
kind of
everyone.
quiet in the corner over there. I didn't see that.
Well, I will be leading the presentation, but I do want to point out this was a collaborative effort. So Councilmember Seekings was a great champion for us on this project. We've also got Lieutenant Byrne and Captain Bruder with us, and then Christina Oth from my office is on. And hopefully in a couple of minutes, Chris Meyer from IntelliCheck might be able to join us, but I'm going to go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Hey, Meg, I'm here, by the way. So I was able to join a few minutes ago. So
Oh, great. Okay, so if there are any questions about IntelliCheck specifically, Chris can help us with those. All right, so what we're doing here today is just to update you all on a 6-month pilot program that we just recently came to the end of. Switch here. Okay, great. So to start with, I just kind of want to do a refresher because it's been 6 months since we started the program. So the reason that we did this is multifaceted. So, and these are some stats from IntelliCheck that I'm sharing here. So across the nation, about half of college students have admitted to having a fake ID. They're really easy to get. And they've gotten really good. They will pass a lot of the checks that people have been doing previously. What a lot of kids don't realize is not only is this putting them in danger by having them consume alcohol before they are ready, but it could also put them in danger of actual identity theft because they're giving over their personal information to the people making these IDs. The way IntelliCheck works is it is just a quick scan of the barcode that receives, decrypts, and analyzes the barcode data. This is a step beyond what some other platforms provide. And then it does verification results pretty much immediately thereafter. So why IntelliCheck was a great partner for this is it's really accurate, it's fast, it's pretty easy to set up, and you're able to get results quickly. So what we agreed to was a 6-month pilot program, and this allowed late night establishments on the peninsula to have access to this platform that is used by a lot of other law enforcement agencies, including the city's police department. The goal here was to eliminate underage drinking in the area and just make it generally a safer place for students in the community. The details of that agreement were that up to 31 establishments were provided 5 licenses, so you could have 5 mobile devices active with the program per business. And you were able to do unlimited transactions under a flat fee that the city cost shared with Explore Charleston. This is really important because IntelliCheck's model is usually transaction based. They also provided weekly reporting to the city on the information that they were gathering from these businesses and had bi-weekly touch points that CPD, BNS, and Councilmember Seekings, when available, attended. And I just want to pause right here. This is a photo from the press announcement that we did about the program and a quote from the mayor, because I do want to point out we knew this was not going to be like a panacea, right? It takes a combination of things to address the issues that we're having with late night activity. And this was just one of the things that we were doing to address that. In addition to our late night ordinance, the Upper King Street Safety Program, several other things. So how'd it go? Here's the data from the past 6 months. We scanned over 100,000 IDs across 27 venues. That's about 5,000 scans a week. And about 3% of those came back as either just straight up failed as fake IDs, or expired. And the expired ones are really important in college campus cities because this is usually an instance of someone using their older brother, their older sisters, their cousin's ID that has expired, but they look enough like to maybe kind of try to pass. So the expired ones are usually indicators of the same underage drinking issue. So how does that compare? Like, how are we doing? So this is also some data from IntelliCheck. They've done a lot of scans this year in a lot of college campus cities. And what they're getting back is about 4%. So right kind of in line with what we got from our numbers of scans that are either failed ID verifications or were expired. What we are proposing to do next, now that the pilot program is wrapping up, is IntelliCheck has graciously offered to provide a discount to all businesses in the city of Charleston, whether they participated in the pilot program or not. It's kind of hard for me to state how much of a discount this is. Again, like I said, they're usually based on a per transaction model for their pricing. So the fact that they're able to provide this base fee and a lower transaction amount once you exceed that base is a great discount for businesses. So where we currently are is that we did extend the program through July 5th. So we'd have the opportunity to share the data with you all and work with IntelliCheck on the promotion and recruitment for the discount program. And that's all I have for you. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Meg. Let me open it up to committee members first. Anybody on the committee have a question?
Mr. Chairman.
Mayor?
Meg,
Yes.
have we done any kind of poll of the 27 establishments to determine at the reduced rate that's being offered, how many would continue the service? We have an idea about that estimate?
We did do a survey kind of midway through the pilot to see how they were liking it. Most of it was positive feedback. We did not have these specific discount dollars to share with them yet, but we're going to work with IntelliCheck to promote that. But I do think there's going to be some interest in continuing the program.
Great. And I guess, given the intent of this program, pilot program, I'd like to also ask Lieutenant Byrne or Bruder if they would opine on whether it made a difference. Did it make Upper King Street or the establishments that used it, did it make it safer? Did it help us?
Captain Bruder, you want to grab that one first, or?
Go ahead, Jim.
That is what I call a pass downward, Lieutenant.
Well done, sir. Well done. Mr. Mayor, yes, I would say that it has made a difference. We have written fewer and fewer false ID or identity theft citations. We have fewer medical calls, which is really the one that I looked at most importantly. We've talked about it in the past where underage drinking and binge drinking are strongly correlated. We've had fewer medical calls for intoxicated or passed out people. And we've also had to worry about some of our public drunk cases less. We're seeing the ability for officers to shift towards violent crime as opposed to our previous focus, which was a lot of the public intoxication and disorderly conduct. We still have disorderly conduct, but the officers are able to use their time and their energy to be able to focus more on the problems that started the entire issue. And we're seeing positive results from that. Yes, sir.
That's terrific. Good to hear.
And if I may,
yes, sir, Captain.
Just add to that, anecdotally, I know it created some interest, just the whole publicity of IntelliCheck, the fact that we're doing this, the fact that we're focusing on it. I received several papers from College of Charleston of students asking why we focus so much on underage drinking and those types of things, which led to some very interesting conversations about economy and all kinds of other stuff in business majors. But, so it was, if nothing more, just getting the word out there that this is, there's not many businesses that are receiving customers under the age of 21. We are focusing on it. The businesses are on board as well. And so that may be something we're not able to measure, but it definitely got the word out there that this is not a town you want to, risk trying to use an ID and that type of stuff. And it definitely got the conversation in the college area discussing other options. So.
Very good. Councilwoman Seekins, I know you wanted to chime in a little bit about this discussion.
Well, I certainly, Mr. Chairman, don't want to prolong your meeting, but I would like to just make a couple of really quick comments, if that's okay with the committee.
Yes, sir, please.
As you may recall, this pilot program came to being at the same time we were thinking about redrafting the late night ordinance. And somehow Chris Meyer, who's on this call from IntelliCheck, wound his way onto my phone line. And we talked about putting this in place at the same time that we were rethinking late night, because we had heard from some purveyors on King Street that they had this program in place and it was very effective. IntelliCheck was kind enough to give us a very good rate. And in conjunction with the CVB, the city of Charleston funded this program. And I think the numbers, and Meg will, and Jim, I think will bear this out. The numbers are pretty staggering. There was a huge use of it. The number of fake IDs that were pulled was in the thousands. So if you think about that, that's thousands of people that otherwise would be in a place they shouldn't be, not there. And I can just tell you anecdotally, the word out there, and I think Lieutenant Bruder touched on this, the word out there amongst underage drinking, not just at the college, but particularly at the college, is that you're just not going to be able to use some of these now very advanced pieces of technology. They're not just IDs anymore. They're very advanced pieces of technology to get by it. So I just want to say thank you to Meg, to Chris Meyer, who's on this call from IntelliCheck, to Lieutenant Byrne and Captain Bruder. They really got behind this and believed in it. So did the teams out on the street. And I do believe that this type of technology is one of the many tools that will be available to the industries and the businesses here in the city. And ultimately, not by the city, but by the insurance carriers and others, is going to be required. So to show in advance that it works at a discounted rate and the benefit that it brings to these businesses, I think bodes well long-term for the private sector to get in and continue on with using this technology. So thank you all for being participants. I do think this was a success. And shows what you can do when you put your minds to it and get out there and give support to your businesses, to your law enforcement team, to your city, and it's worked. So thank you for letting me chime in, and thank you all again for that core team for really working hard on this. We met weekly, we reviewed the numbers, we chased after the businesses, we encouraged them at times strongly to use it. And one of the businesses that wasn't using it early on ended up being the business that used it the most. I mean, it had tens of thousands of swipes on it. So that was Meg's doing pretty much. So thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, team. Let's see how this goes going forward. And thanks, Chris and IntelliCheck for sponsoring this on the front end. Appreciate it.
I just want to springboard a little bit about the comment that you made about insurance companies are going to sort of force a hand on this. I mean, it's just from a liability standpoint, you in a entertainment district, you'll have to explain why you're not going to be using this technology if it's available and out there. So I don't know if we need to do anything else more of requiring it. I think it's going to have sort of a natural consequence that is going to be part of the standard now with these entertainment district facilitators doing that, having that kind of technology. This is not all that expensive for them, is it? I mean, I know we're in the pilot program part, but I mean, to have this available to you is not that expensive.
No, during the pilot program it was not, and thanks to IntelliCheck, it will still be very affordable going forward if they choose to keep on keeping on through the City of Charleston's program. And we will encourage them to do that and let them know that this is available to them going forward at a rate that really should be something that's very beneficial to their bottom line.
So May, do we just need to extend this? I mean, there's no action that needs to be taken on this, but this is going to be extended for another 6 months, or?
So we're going to extend the free pilot through July 5th. We've already made that agreement with them. And then Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but they haven't given me an end date for the discount program.
Okay. Well,
Nope.
Maybe it may be worthwhile to hear back from you in our August public safety committee meeting.
Really? Sure. And then Lieutenant Byrne did his
Yeah, I
hand.
did, Lieutenant. I see your hand up. I was gonna come back to you. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, the question that was just brought up about whether or not, we require it in the insurance companies. I know that with the L&E applications that we've been receiving under the new format, many of the businesses, especially the ones that have been using it, have already reported that they're going to continue to use some form of IntelliCheck in their underage drinking plans. We also have the ability to require it for places that are problematic. And we learned a lot about the problematic businesses and who is and is not acting in good faith through this program by the people that took it and didn't use it. So a lot of information was gained from a management program or perspective as well.
Very good. Okay. Meg, thank you for that summary, and for those who participated in this discussion, thank you for updating us on that. And what we just plan, Meg, to see you back in August.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. All right. The next item on our agenda is a brief municipal court update from our one and only Judge Susan Perdina. And I saw earlier, unless they have faded off, several members of our municipal court judges are on here. Judge Maloney, I see you. Yep. Judge Ferguson here. I'm looking at my, I saw Judge Ferguson and Bird. Who am I missing?
Judge Bird stepped out for a minute to conduct traffic court, but she'll be back in at her point in the presentation. So, okay. But I'll start it off. I promise we'll be briefer this year. Julia has promised to hit the yellow flashing and red flashing lights to call our time after a little bit. But first of all, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to be back here, which I guess is now our annual report, State of the Court report. In addition to the judges, we have Jason Michael, who's our public defender, several lawyers from the police department and prosecutor's office, and also court staff, James Moody and Joanne Hayes, who've been really helpful putting this information together. Today, briefly, we're just going to focus on two areas. The first one I want to talk about is numbers. And although we're not going to get into a whole lot of numbers, they are important. And I'll tell you that our goal that we've talked about and are working to achieve is that a case will not be older than 18 months once it's filed in our court. And that's a heavy lift given COVID, but I think we're working toward that quite well. And as we all know why that's important, because old cases don't help defendants, it doesn't help a victim, it doesn't help families of victims, doesn't help the police department. So again, that is the goal, and I think we're going to put up a few numbers or talk about a few numbers that show we're making some great progress. But the numbers aren't the whole story. And so the other thing we wanted to talk about today is to introduce you particularly to those lawyers and to others who are not familiar with the court, to what we call our specialty courts, which is the livability STR court, the DUI court, which I know is up front and center to all of you, and then also our homeless court. And each of the judges who are in charge of those courts are just going to talk for a few minutes about what they do on a everyday basis and some of the challenges that they're facing. So I did put up I did send a little presentation to each of you earlier today. I just want to focus on really what's on page 3. I'm not going to even share it because I don't want to get bogged down in the numbers, but I do think it's impressive. And this is a chart that Judge Bird worked on with our new CMS court reporting system. And that is last year, which was our reporting period last year from June 1, 2021 to 5/31/2022, there were 9,062 cases filed in our municipal court, okay? Of those, and again, that's just the cases filed in that 1 year period, there are only 352 cases pending, okay? 6.3% are criminal or livability, 2.6 are traffic and DUI. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't older cases, okay, but that is showing about how on an annual basis, we're really working hard to not get farther behind in our cases. In the past year, same period of reporting, compared to 9,062 cases, we had over 12,000 cases filed, okay? And of those 12,000 cases, within a year, we have we only have pending 2,639 of those cases. So basically, within a year, we have resolved 78% of the cases that have come before this court. So again, and you'll hear the challenges, particularly from Judge Ferguson, that he faces on cleaning up some of his older cases. But again, this court's objective has been, and I have to say, all the judges and all the court staff have helped with trying to figure out what are the most strategic ways to attack our case management and our court operations. And I really think we're starting to turn the corner and see some relief. With that being said, what I would like to do is just turn this over to Judge Maloney, who is in charge of our livability and STR courts, to talk a little bit about his experience and how he's doing with his cases. Judge?
All right. And we'll notice that Judge Maloney is wearing his robe, so we just want to make sure that we all knew that he's a judge. So
yeah, I was actually doing some pre-trials today, Council Member. So yeah, I was given 5 minutes, and of course I could talk as long as we want. If anybody has any questions, feel free to give me a call offline. But the livability court, for those who aren't familiar with it, is basically a specialty court that addresses quality of life issues in the city of Charleston. And by that, I mean the vast majority of people that appear in front of me are either citizens or city employees. It could be an animal control officer. It could be Lee Bouchelder. It could be the fire marshal's office. And we hold court every other Monday at 8:30. We start right at 8:30, and we always have a city prosecutor. Right now, we have an in-house prosecutor, Mallory Shear, who is present in court, and she assists with presenting cases because frequently we'll have neighborhood groups, witnesses to animal control cases, what have you, and she makes sure that the testimony is presented properly. At the end of the case, whatever the disposition is, there's a written order that I make sure that each one of the defendants and the witnesses that are there will have, because many of the cases that I hear are ongoing cases. It might be a case of a public nuisance, what have you. So we try to do, other than just sign off on the tickets where there's no record of it for the actual litigants that are in court, we give them that. At 10 o'clock, we do the short-term rental court. That also is staffed by an in-house attorney, Magali Creech. And we've handled a significant number of short-term rental cases. I can continue to commend the city for the way they handled drafting that ordinance, and also the way the cases have been prosecuted. It makes my job as a judge very easy when you can simply check the box, so to speak. And they do a really good job of presenting those. At 10 o'clock, I'm sorry, at 11 o'clock, we also do parking ticket appeals. Currently, we're hearing appeals, of course, from the city. We also have a contract with Medical University to handle their parking ticket appeals. So anyone who's aggrieved with a parking ticket decision, and I'm happy to say that there's fewer and fewer people that are coming to court, because the administrative staff at Traffic and Transportation is doing a really good job of adjusting things before they get to me. But if they do have a problem, a legal issue, they can bring it to me and we'll deal with those cases at 11. We do jury trials about every 6 weeks. I've got a term coming up in July. I try to do, that's why I wear this robe, literally get with all the lawyers that are on the jury trial docket to see if we can resolve those cases ahead of time. It looks like from the information that Susan has, we have like 19 jury trials pending. That'll be in the latter part of July, but the vast majority of those will either settle out before we go to the jury trial, or if we have to do the jury trial term, we might try 1 or 2 of those cases. We also do cases that aren't listed on here. It just occurred to me when I was looking through this. Abandoned boats. We have a city officer who handles the abandoned boat cases. And we see some L&E cases, late night entertainment ordinance cases, and some of the Upper King Street activity that was mentioned earlier in my court. All of the cases brought in my court are brought on the uniform ordinance summons, which gives the city a lot more flexibility in terms of how they craft their sentences. Rarely, if ever, do you have a jail sentence imposed in court. The fine can be up to $1,087, which is a bit misleading. We had one case this year where there were multiple charges brought in short-term rental cases, and I believe the actual settlement amount was over $45,000. So it can be a pretty important issue. And we'd see more and more attorneys appearing in livability court. At least I've seen that in the last year. We just hit their 22nd year, I believe, of the court being in existence, and I consider it to be a real success. And I enjoyed, working on the court and presiding over.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Judge Maloney? All right. Who's next on the hit parade, Judge Herdina?
We're going to call up Judge Ferguson.
He gets 30 seconds.
You got it. The DUI court is doing well. We're going to continue to do well, and our numbers are going down. That's the Reader's Digest version. I do want to brag very briefly and just give you a little bit of the numbers here. This same time last year, we had 27 pending cases that were started in 2020. So a case that was a 2020 case, we had 27. Now we only have 3 2020 cases. What is even more impressive, I think, is, if I get this right here, we had 158 2021 cases this time last year. 158 2021 cases this time last year. Now we have 33. So not only are we addressing the backlog of cases, but we're ensuring that that backlog does not continue, does not grow. Those numbers don't grow. And I think it is more of a testament to our court staff at the city of Charleston than it is, me sitting on the bench, just making sure that the wheels of justice keep turning. I think the staff is just doing a great job. And I want to just say quickly that it has been personally and professionally rewarding working with the staff and the camaraderie with the other judges, especially in light of Judge Herdina's bag lunch meetings every so often. It really helped with the camaraderie and just helping the judges answer those small questions that just we can ask in person instead of going through email. So with that said, looking forward, I do want to continue to ensure that our numbers are going down. However, I want to spend some particular attention or give some particular attention to a significant number of cases that were handled by an attorney that passed away, David Ayler. Mr. Ayler had a significant number of DUI cases, and we need to make sure that those clients needed to find new attorneys, and we need to make sure that those clients are comfortable moving forward. I don't want them to think that their case is being rushed through or rushed past now that they've got a new attorney. So with that, I want to make sure that those cases are addressed with some efficiency, but also with care and making sure that everyone understands their rights before they move through that process. So with that said, I'm proud of the work that we've done, and I look forward to continuing that work. And I'll end it there. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions for Judge Ferguson from our committee members? So Judge Ferguson, I take from your comment that the oldest case that you have is a 2020 case.
No, sir. The oldest cases we have 3 2019 cases. We have 1 2019 case. I'm sorry. We have 1 2019 case. We had 3 this time last year. Now we just have 1. But I don't want the committee to think that one case has been just sitting out there this whole time. What can happen is when you have a DUI first in the municipal court, oftentimes there's a second charge in the general sessions court. For example, somebody gets pulled over for DUI and is also charged with possession of cocaine, then that case is placed on the administrative docket until the general sessions charge has been disposed of. although I don't know the details of that one remaining case, that case could have been with essentially kind of sitting with the general sessions issue until that was resolved, until it came back on the municipal court's docket. So the long answer to your question is we have one 2019 case, but it may have just appeared this year, depending on whether there was a companion case with it in a higher court.
Yeah. Judge Maloney, are you waving off or?
No, I'm waving because Judge Ferguson made a point that I neglected to make, and that is we have some cases in livability court which date back to 2019. Those cases are under the ordinance we call 2154, which is basically the monitoring by the livability division in the city of houses that have historic value to prevent them from being demolished by neglect. And I really commend the council and the mayor for creating the administrative agency, as I understand it, that's going to take a responsibility for monitoring those cases so we can get those off the docket. I don't have the tools in my court to effectively make sure that the citizens that own those homes have resources, have the right, contractors and so forth. So just wanted to make that point as well, because Judge Ferguson made the point about general sessions, which is also a problem that I see with some of the cases in livability court.
Very good. All right, Judge Herdina, who's next?
Judge Byrd, and then followed by our Chief Judge Morrison.
All right.
As excited as we are to share with you the progress that we've been able to make in our dockets and all of our courts over the last several years, especially now getting over the COVID backlog that we experienced, we're equally as excited to update the committee on our diversionary court, which is our homeless court program. As I know all of you are very aware, we do have a significant homeless population or unsheltered population in the city of Charleston. And due to the nature of their unsheltered status, these individuals do find themselves in contact with law enforcement on a somewhat regular basis. There are also members of that community that are fairly transient. And so while they are passing through our area, may also find themselves in contact with law enforcement as a result of ordinance violations, again, related to their unsheltered status, and then find themselves before us in our court. So the point of our homeless court program, which was started back in 2016, was to recognize the unique situation that these particular citizens are experiencing, and recognizing that their interaction with our court is tied to their unsheltered status, and do what we can to assist them in getting the help and the support that they need, so that they are not continuing to run into law enforcement and continuing to show up in our courts. Again, since 2016, our homeless court program has successfully helped dozens of individuals find housing. Their initial qualification in the program is whether or not an individual has permanent housing or at least reliable housing. If that individual does not, then they are free to apply to the homeless court program, which we are assisted heavily by a 180 Place and their legal staff. They accept applications into the program. Once an individual passes their application program, that person is then referred to the city prosecutor's office, who then reviews the individual's criminal history. As long as there's not something significant in their criminal conviction history, such as a violent offense or any type of sexual misconduct conviction, the individual is usually approved for the program and can begin working with one of the case managers at 180 Place to complete the requirements in the program. Again, that first goal is to find someone permanent housing, get them off the streets and in a stable location so that they can then begin to accomplish the other goals within the program. Those other goals involve getting a participant in touch with service providers to address any issues that they might have, whether it's educational issues, someone need a GED, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and helping a person really get a grasp on those obstacles that they're facing personally that may also be contributing to their unsheltered status. And then also at the same time, an additional goal is to get these people employment, get them jobs. And one of the best things about each of our successful cases that has come through this court since 2016 is that not only are these individuals completing the program with housing, they are completing the program either with employment or having access to certain benefits, whether they are veterans benefits, disability benefits, and also, again, having any personal issues that they may be experiencing addressed by professional service providers. We often note that people are never in our court for reasons that they want to be here. So homeless court is really a fantastic opportunity for us to celebrate the successes of individuals and see them leave us better than they were when they first came to us. Our program was actually recognized at the National Homeless Court Conference in DC last September. And the ABA took notice as well and wants to use our homeless court program as a model for jurisdictions not only across South Carolina, but also across the country. To that end, the ABA assisted us in hosting a pop-up homeless court event on April 28th. That event was held at the Hope Center on Walnut Street. For about 4 hours that Friday afternoon, the municipal court, homeless court, along with dozens of service providers in the area, gathered together at the Hope Center and became a one-stop shop for homeless individuals in our community. They were able to make direct contact with these service providers, again, for counseling, substance abuse issues, mental health issues, job information and resources, as well as housing resources. And then they were able to come directly to myself and our incredible court staff who are right there on the scene and have any outstanding fines taken care of, get information on any pending criminal charges they may have had with the court, as well as any traffic charges they may have had with the court. And the other highlight of this event was the participation of the Department of Motor Vehicles. They sent a team of individuals who were also right there on site with us at the event. And the DMV participants helped individuals get IDs made. We were able to, in real time, take care of issues in our traffic court that maybe were holding an individual's license in suspension. As soon as we got those issues resolved on our end, the participants from the Department of Motor Vehicles were able to immediately clear that license for suspension and then issue a new license right there on the spot. It was really interesting and exciting to see how all of these government entities work together and alleviate these obstacles that individuals are facing in their unsheltered status. We had approximately 100 participants come through the event on April the 28th. The ABA representative who was present at the event informed us that for initial pop-up events such as this, that was an outstanding number of participants. So we were very excited about that. Of those approximately 100 participants, about 75 individuals completed what we called our passports for the day. We created a sheet of paper that had a list of all of the necessary service providers, as well as the DMV and the municipal court, and for people to use as a guide map, sort of, to make sure they went around and saw every service provider and every government presence there in order to completely complete the event. And so again, we had approximately 75 passports completed and turned back into us. It was such a positive event that we are looking forward to not only doing it next year, we are contemplating having a second event before the end of this calendar year as well. In addition to the homeless court as a diversionary program, we are also interested in potentially starting a youth education court to add a secondary diversionary program to this department. The youth education court would take offenses that stem out of our city high schools, such as disturbing schools, disorderly conduct, even simple possession of marijuana, simple assaults, offenses like that, and working with our CPD school resource officers to direct those types of cases into our youth education court for resolution. The exciting thing about the youth education court is that we don't run it, the students do. The court's not only a way to resolve offenses that happen within the walls of our schools, but it's also a way to get our students in our community involved in the criminal justice system, to educate them about the criminal justice system and become a part of that system. The national model for the youth education court consists of the students volunteering to be participants within the court, and they play the roles of prosecutor, of defense attorney, of judges, of jurors, even court clerks, bailiffs, officers, any and everything that you can think of as roles that we see in our courtroom. The students would be involved, and so they are in charge of prosecuting the offense, defending the offense, and ultimately coming up with what they see as a just resolution. The Goose Creek, city of Goose Creek has a youth education court that their police department helps manage within the municipal court. And would really love an opportunity to speak with them further, get more details about how they run their court and how it looks compared to the national model. But we do feel like this would be a very creative way to resolve some of these issues and really keep our students engaged in the criminal justice system before they truly become a part of it in general sessions court, in the family court, which prosecutes criminal offenses for offenders who are 17 years and younger, and before any of those situations become part of their permanent record. And again, a good way for our court to coordinate with our community high schools and maybe even some elementary schools.
Very good. All right, Judge Morrison, anything you want to add? You're next up on the deck.
Oh, thank you. First, I would like to say, because I think probably some of the council members don't understand or don't know that, you know, the municipal court is a creation of the city government. The legislature years ago said that, you know, that cities could set up their own municipal courts. However, they would be governed by court administration and the Supreme Court. So even though we are a creation of the city, we are governed by the court administration and the Supreme Court. And so city of Charleston, this court from as long as I've been, it has never shut down. A hurricane maybe or storm, but during the pandemic, when the Chief Justice said all court is over, there'll be no more in court appearances, no more jury trials or anything like that. We met up here every day. Everybody who works for the city of Charleston in municipal court came to this court and worked. The nature of their work is not such that they can work from home. That they can't take these tickets home with them. They can't take these warrants home with them. They can't take anything out of this building. So it has to be here. And so for them to do their work, they had to be here. And so we had plexiglass encasements so that they were protected. But when you think about it, we were shut down for almost 2 years. No jury trials, no court, no traffic court, nothing. And we couldn't do anything. But the people who worked here came here every day. The judges came here every time that it was that time to be on the bench. We came here, we went through the docket, we did what we were supposed to do, and we never shut this court down. So when you look at the number of cases maybe that are pending, it's amazing that it's not maybe twice that much. I mean, you can think of all the tickets that were written during that time for traffic offenses and minor criminal offenses, and we were able to dispose of all of those things, and we're down to these few numbers. Another reason for these numbers is that many of the lawyers who come here are in the legislature. And so when the legislature starts, they are under order protection. So any jury trials that they have pending are just continued until it could be from November, December to June or July. But if there's a special session, then they're protected again. We also are the low man on the totem pole. Every court is above us. So when we have a jury trial, let's say you look at the jury trial cases pending, we have a jury trial and a lawyer has a case here. We'll get a letter from this lawyer saying, I can't be there. I'm in municipal court in Dorchester, Berkeley County, or in Charleston County, or I'm in general sessions. And so that's put on the docket. We don't put anything aside. Please rest assured, Councilman, that we don't put anything aside unless we are bound to, either by the court administration or by a lawyer having a case in another court. There are occasionally someone will come in and ask for a jury trial. We advise them of their rights, that they are entitled to jury trial, they're entitled to a lawyer. We give them all the civil rights, and they say, I don't want a lawyer. And we try to talk them out of it. We try to tell them we have an excellent public defender in Jason Michael. He does a wonderful job for the city, and we say, we'll just go talk to Mr. Michael for a minute and then come on back. And a lot of times he'll resolve those cases, and a lot of times he'll put them on the jury trial docket. Some of those people they continue to say, no, I don't want a lawyer. Then when it comes time for them to try the case, they come in and say, well, I want a lawyer. I need a lawyer. So then if they don't have a lawyer and they qualify, then Jason will represent them. And of course, that pushes it back. That case has to go, because we can't have him try a case that he doesn't know anything about. So we do. So the City of Charleston Municipal Court is up and running. It's in good shape. Excellent people who work here. Some of the finest people I have ever worked for that work in this courtroom. And the judges, Jason Michael, and all the prosecutors. So the City of Charleston is well served by this municipal court. And many lawyers will tell us when they come in that they'd rather do, that this is the best court going. We are not a kangaroo court, but we are a good, fair court, and we give everybody ample time to just, if somebody wants to say something, we let them talk. And so this court, I think, does an excellent job, and with some wonderful judges, Judge Ferguson, Judge Byrd, Judge Rodina, Judge Maloney. They all do an excellent job, and all the people who work here. So the City of Charleston is well served by this municipal court, and we are working hard to get all these old cases out of the way. But many of them, as Judge Ferguson said, may be general sessions related, and the prosecutor will say, I need to continue this because we can't handle this. It may affect what's going on in general session. But we are pushing these cases. We're trying to get everything done here, and everybody here is working hard. So the City of Charleston is well served by this municipal court. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you. Any comments from members of the committee? All right. Well, I just want to sort of echo what that last statement that Judge Morrison has made. And I just recall pre-2020, we scheduled a update on the municipal court system. And one of the court administrators showed up and said, no one's asked us about this in the past 25 years, how we're doing over here. And we were all astonished by that comment that we weren't checking out. The Public Safety Committee had not been checking up on you guys and giving you an opportunity to give us updates on what's been transpiring. We've made such tremendous progress and strides in making sure number one, that victims and defendants alike are well served. That's critically important. That our as Judge Morrison said, that we are the standard bearer for how municipal courts are to operate. In spite of all of the other challenges that we have, but we're all the lowest court of priority on the totem pole. Other courts have priority over municipal court. The other issues dealing with lawyer legislators and general sessions come into play with us. So y'all are doing a tremendous job. Y'all heard our mandate from City Council, get these numbers moving. Y'all have done that and above and beyond my expectations. Thank y'all for the service to the community. There are many moving parts. I served as a municipal judge in Mount Pleasant, so I'm very familiar with the issues that you guys face on a regular basis. Jason, thank you for your service to the city as well. And having these prosecutors available, I think has really made a difference in where we're headed. So
this made a huge difference. Thank you.
Well, thank y'all. This is very, these reports are long, and I know they're long, but it's just so important that once a year we hear from y'all. So, and what's important is just to communicate either directly or through Judge Herdina, things that we think that we need to be doing differently and resource-wise. Judge Herdina and I had talked earlier this morning. I've asked her to look into two possibilities to make things even more efficient, whether or not we need to have a night court going into play. And we'll also talk a little bit more along the lines of youth court. I think Judge Bird had talked a little bit about the edges of that in her presentation, but also I think the benefits of whether or not to have a youth court. So we may hear back from her as to the feasibility of those two things coming into play at some point. But I want that to be sort of surveyed among not just the judges and court staff, but the police department as well, as to whether or not how those things may help benefit our community and y'all's time is so precious and critically needed. So I wanted y'all to hear from me. Thank you again for your service. And thank you for keeping the standard of our criminal justice system up to the highest standards possible. That's what we expect in the city of Charleston, and y'all have met that mandate. All right. Very good. Thank y'all so much for all of that. And so Mayor Tecklenburg and I have had a handful of discussions on our next item with the passing of Chief Reynolds. And I thought that I've asked him if he wanted to update us on where we stand with the leadership of our police department following the passing of Chief Reynolds. Mayor, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me also thank our Administrative Judge, Susan Herdina, for her leadership, and all of our judges for their service to our city and staff as well over at the municipal court. I think, Mr. Chairman, you note a marked improvement over the last few years, both in communications, but also in resolving some longstanding cases that were out there. And y'all are doing a great job. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sadly, we are at the point we never wanted to be to talk about the replacement of our dear friend and Chief Luther Reynolds. We have decided to, use a process that worked so well for the city before when we found Chief Reynolds. And in fact, the city had used in prior engagements before I was mayor to use an organization called PERF, which is the Police Executive Research Forum. So we've been directly in touch with their director, Chuck Wexler. And I think y'all are familiar with PERF, but they're a research and membership organization of police professionals. And so they're thoroughly familiar with the roles, responsibilities, and experience required of successful law enforcement professionals. And like they did for the city 5 or a little more years ago when we were searching for a new chief. They've made a proposals to us that will be very comprehensive and include a discussion of our current needs and expectations, advice on community engagement all the way through the process, help us, just revisit our offering that we would post, help us to place that position announcement or posting in the right places, and to actively recruit candidates, some of the best police professionals in the country, but also some of the best police professionals that happen to be right here in Charleston, in our own department, that they would help to, once a posting is done and probably run for a 30-day period, that they would help us receive and screen, assess the applications, and do detailed screening, recommending ultimately a pool of candidates that would come to Charleston, and some may be here in Charleston, so they might not have to travel, but to have an interview process that engages community members, so we have good community engagement and participation for a recommendation to me to make to our city and to our council for a final candidate for police chief. So that's kind of where we are. We expect to complete an agreement with PERF this week and be able to proceed using their services. The expected timeline, by the time you get ready, you post it, you assess those who apply, you have an interview process. We hope to be able to complete and bring a candidate to for recommendation by October of this year.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor, for that update, and I appreciate you willingness to share that information with this committee. I thought it was important that we let the community know where we stood. We didn't want to have to be in this position, God bless us, but here we are, unfortunately, and our police department needs to move forward regardless, and I think this is a step in the right direction. Any other comments from members of our committee? Okay. Anything else, Mayor, that we want to add to that at this point, or stay tuned? I guess the word is stay tuned.
Sir, stay tuned.
I guess the other part of this is just stay tuned. We'll keep everybody abreast of the progress with this process.
Yes, sir, will do.
Okay, all right. We went over a little bit longer than anticipated, but we covered some really important ground on here. I hope that our work and these amendments with the CPAC gets us to where we need to be with that very important committee. It's vitally important on that. I see Councilmember Brady and Mike, you'll have your hands up. So Councilmember Brady, I'll call on you first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a quick question as a follow-up to the mayor's comments. Is the interim period going to be the same as it has where you've asked the 3 deputy chiefs to run, or is there is one deputy chief going to lead in the interim? I just wanted to get some clarification on that.
Well, currently, we're operating as we have been during the last year and a half when Chief Reynolds was indisposed with his health from time to time, and that is we have 3 wonderful deputy chiefs, and they basically share the responsibilities of leading the department, and as circumstances dictate, one or the other may serve as acting chief, if you will. For example, right now, acting chief is Jack Weiss, who I think was on the call. As chance or circumstance would have it, Deputy Chief Walker had scheduled a advanced leadership training course with PERF He's in Boston now attending that class, and he's been out for a couple of weeks. And just yesterday or the day before, over the weekend, Deputy Chief Thompson had a long-standing scheduled vacation time, richly deserved. And so Jack is acting chief right now. And as circumstances change and they all come back together in town this by the end of the month or next month, I do anticipate appointing one to serve as an interim chief, but as circumstances have it, Jack is our acting chief right now.
So for the three deputy chiefs in the scoring process, once they if they're interested and move forward, will there be preference given for internal candidates? Because I'm just thinking of, just from a recruitment and retention standpoint, moving through the ranks, obviously we want to create a culture and an environment where our internal candidates see a path forward and get to stay with the department rather than necessarily going outside.
Right. So the first part of our engagement with PERF is to discuss our needs and expectations and to develop a profile of, so to speak, the ideal candidate. And I do plan to advise PERF that part of our profile and ideal would be someone who would be knowledgeable with our department. And so, yeah, I think there'll be, so to speak, extra points for consideration for those who are within our department. Yes, sir.
And Councilmember Brady, going through this experience for both the fire chief and police chief, one of the things that I know that our outside consultants take in consideration, along with what the mayor just mentioned, is also the succession of the previous chief. What were the circumstances behind that chief no longer being available? So that will play into some consideration with this as well. So there's a lot of moving parts to this process, and it is very intense. If I can describe an adjective as to how this process works. So the mayor and I have been in communication about this, and I think that the sooner we have a more, here to say, permanent interim chief, I think that that may feel better off for all of us as we move forward. So we'll let this process play out a little bit for right now, and everybody will have a role to play. I'm pretty sure about that, particularly this committee. Okay. Any other questions or along those lines? I don't see a need for us to go into executive session. That was on our agenda if needed, but based on the mayor's comments and what I've heard so far, I think we're safe in not having to go into executive session. Any further business before this committee? Thank you all very much for your participation. I noticed that Ms. Thomas, my CPAC representative, is on. Ms. Thomas, thank you for joining in. Mike, I see your hand's been going up and down, so I wasn't sure if you had a comment you wanted to add into this or make.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to offer a reminder to everybody that this Sunday on June 18th, our CFD will be gathering again at the Sofa Superstore site to commemorate the 16th annual memorial of the loss of our 9 firefighters. The event will be held at 7 o'clock sharp. I do recommend arriving no later than 6:45, as we usually struggle for parking in the area. But again, if you'd like to join us, please come out this Sunday, June 18th, to commemorate the event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for Mike, for reminding us about that. That's on my calendar, and I've been in contact with Chief Curry about it. For those of you who have not participated in this ceremony, I would urge you to do so. I know it's Father's Day, which makes it a little bit more special event this year. There were several people who lost their fathers in that terrific tragedy. So if you can make it out there, I would urge you to please do so. is very respectful. The duration is not very long, but it's very meaningful. The amount of time that we participate in this is not reflective as to the importance of this for the community. So I appreciate the work that's done in planning this. Thank you all very much, and Mike for reminding us about that. So it's 7 o'clock on Sunday, June 18th. Okay. All right. There being no further business, we will stand adjourned. Thank you all for all of the participants for this, all those who gave us a report. We do appreciate your assistance with this committee report. We've got another meeting in less than 30 minutes. I'll see some of you guys and gals in about 20 minutes or so. Thank you all very much.